Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I'll conclude my coverage of Grand Prix de France with the women's event. This event was won by Amber Glenn of the U.S., winning her first Grand Prix in the biggest international win of her career. And it feels like the culmination of so many attempts, so much potential. So to see Amber finally reach the top of the podium, I think meant a lot to a lot of us that have been following her for a number of years. She won the national title in January, and it wasn't the performance that she wanted to have won, but she won nonetheless, and she is arguably the top American lady. I think that Isabeau certainly winning a silver medal at Worlds established herself as the top American lady. But right now, at this point in the season, with Isabeau winning a bronze at Skate America and having to withdraw from her second Grand Prix at Finlandia earlier this week, Amber presents herself with a very strong case for being that top American lady. A lot of pressure is going to come to her, even more so than what she has experienced so far before going into the last Grand Prix event, which is the Cup of China, with the potential of going into the Grand Prix final on her shoulders. But as of right now, anyway, she had a big win here. And it all started with the short program. So if you don't tune in to figure skating until we get to the Grand Prix, then let me give you a quick rundown of Amber at Lombardia earlier this season. She decided to do the triple axel in the short program there, just like she has done here. It was a pretty consistent jump for her last season. So why not throw it in there and have the potential to score more? I've said many times on the podcast that if you can fully rotate your triple axel, then even if you fall, it's not that different than doing a clean double axel. The problem comes from getting under rotations or downgrades with the fall. Then that can be very problematic. And obviously, it can be problematic for a skater if they never land the triple axel in the short program, like Hana Yoshida, for instance, or if it's going to throw you off from your other jumps if you make a mistake, or if you're hyper focused on that one element and you lose the rest of the program. So obviously the decision to go with the triple axel in the short program is very skater specific. And it's really the culmination of a lot of consistency with that jump to take the risk to put it in there. So far this season, Amber is 2 for 2 in the short program. She landed it at Lombardia, got the biggest short program score of her career, 75 points. Here, she does it again and gets even bigger score at 78 points. So the best American score for a woman that we have seen that was previously held by Brady Tennell in this +5 era. And in the +3 era, it was Gracie Gold who had the highest score. So now that belongs to Amber. She came out in that short program skating to This Time by Janet Jackson. It is choreographed by Caitlin Weaver and Randy Strong. She came just completely confident. I don't think we've ever seen Amber skate as confident in that program as she skated here. Everything looked just very secure, very clean. It looked like she knew she was going to land it. I think that the program itself is good. It's probably, for me, I don't love it as much as I liked either of her last two short programs, but I think it's still a very strong vehicle for her, and she was rewarded very handily by the judges. The free skate. So every time Amber has a strong short, I am always extremely nervous for what the free skate is going to entail. So at Lombardia, Amber got 137 in her free skate. She stepped out of her triple flip, and she ended up with an unclear edge call on that flip. That was the only mistake in the program. And she got 137. Definitely see the potential for her to go well into the 140s with a clean free skate. So based on what she did in the short program, is she going to go and skate a clean free here? Or is she going to fall apart? Or are we going to get something kind of in between? And what we got was kind of something in between, which is still a step in the right direction for Amber, because she has decided to do the triple axel in the short program this season. Then if everything goes as planned, she gives herself some pretty significant padding. So over our second place competitor in Wakaba, she had a almost 12-point lead over Wakaba going into the free skate. So she had a margin of error, and she had over a 7-point lead over Chaeyeon Kim, who was second after the short program. So it gave her some wiggle room, and she needed some of it for sure, because it was not a perfect free skate, but it also wasn't a meltdown of a free skate that we saw so many times last season whenever she would land the triple axel. The only time she skated well, really, in the free skate last year was at the Finland Grand Prix, when she didn't land the triple axel, and then she nailed everything else and pulled herself all the way up from 11th to bronze to make the podium. So here in the free skate, she put her hand down on the triple axel. So it wasn't clean like it was in the short program. So again, how is she going to respond? She initially responded very well. I don't know when we have seen her really miss that triple flip, triple toe. It has been so good for her. But she gets kind of into that second half of the program, and she fell on her triple flip. She had a hand down on the triple loop. She was very slow on the step sequence, but overall, it was enough. It was enough, thanks to her short program lead, and she still ended up with 132 points, which is really a pretty decent score for anybody, and especially for the couple of mistakes that she had. Really 3 mistakes, right? 2 hands down and a fall. She was definitely nervous in the kiss and cry, because, she definitely wanted to win. It was enough. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's a really, really good step in the right direction for her. And she just set herself up very well for getting to the Grand Prix final. And with Isabeau not going to be in the Grand Prix final, since we presume she's injured, she hasn't said exactly why she has pulled out of the Finlandia, but the presumption is that she's injured. She can set herself up very well going into nationals as sort of the leading American lady, because Elise Lynn Gracie had a great Nebelhorn, but didn't have great Grand Prix. Sarah Everhart was here, finished in the top 5, but certainly wasn't on the podium. Brady didn't make the podium in her first Grand Prix. Alyssa didn't make the podium in her first Grand Prix. And so I think that any doubts that people had coming out of Worlds about Amber being able to make the world team again this year with all of the talent, I mean, nothing is set in stone, but she's certainly well on her way. I loved her and her coach Damon Allen's reaction in the kiss and cry when her score came up. She was like, holy crap. And she said, I got the edge, which at Lombardia, she did not get an edge call on her flip combination there, but she did get that edge call in the free skate. So that's what when she said, I got the edge, that's what she was referring to. All right, so let's move on to our second place competitor, and that was Wakaba Higuchi of Japan. So she said that she has increased the amount of run-throughs that she is doing in practice to help increase her stamina. And I'm sure that that is in response to a lot of the calls that she has been getting that has affected her score. The potential for her to score, especially in the short program. Usually increased stamina and doing more run-throughs is really going to help you in the free skate. But two clean programs for her in this competition. So it was better here than what we saw from her at Skate America. Short program, clean program from her, but calls are keeping her from hitting that 70-point mark in her short program. So on her triple Lutz, triple toe combination, she got an undercall again on the triple toe, and on her triple flip, she ended up with both an unclear edge and a Q on that. The triple flip is a common solo jump that people use because it has the highest base value next to the triple Lutz. But some skaters will instead, like Amber, go with a triple loop instead, either because it's a more consistent jump for them or because they're less likely to get an edge call. If you get an unclear edge or worse, like a full edge call, so reminder, an unclear edge does not affect the base value, but it does affect the GOE. So where you might see them get positive GOE in the little Wordle box at the top of your screen, and then you look at the scoring sheets after the end of the competition, you'll see that that jump had a negative GOE on it because once they've given it an unclear edge, then it affects the GOE. If they were to get a full edge call, that is even more costly because it will affect the base value of the jump. So that's why for some skaters, it might make more sense to do a triple loop there. You're only losing a little bit of base value, but you're not going to get an edge call on a triple loop jump. So I don't know if that's something that they need to look at with Wakaba or if it's something that they can do to really work on that edge to make sure that she stays on the inside edge. The inside edge is the side of the skate that's like the big toe side. The outside edge is the side of the skate that's the pinky toe side. So sometimes it's very difficult to tell in real time, like what edge that their takeoff is on. But a lot of times on a replay in slow motion, you can get a much better gauge, and then you can see what it is that causes that unclear edge or even a full edge call. And then in Wakaba's long program, clean, another really great performance from her. If I'm nitpicking, I'd like to see a bit more emotion from her in that first piece of music. I feel like when Running Up That Hill comes on, you see like an increase in her performance and the emotion that she's bringing to the performance. Whereas the first part of the program, it doesn't quite match that level. And so that's a place I think that she could improve there in terms of the quality of the performance. She got a couple of calls on the quarter, that same triple Lutz, triple toe, on that triple toe again, on her sow cow, and then that same unclear edge call on her triple flip again. Even with those calls, however, she scored 139 points, so very, very close to 140. It's the best that we have seen Wakaba do in a long time. It was 9 points better than what she got at Skate America. And with a silver medal finish here and a gold medal finish in Skate America, she is our first qualifier into the Grand Prix final, which is huge for her, making a case to get on the world team for Team Japan. Also in Team Japan was our third place finisher, and that was Rion Sumiyoshi. This is like her jam. She got 2 bronze medals on the Grand Prix 2 years ago, and then last season she got a silver and a bronze and actually made Grand Prix final, where she finished 6th. So she's putting herself in position to potentially make another one. It's a little bit more difficult path when you get a bronze versus getting a gold or a silver, but it's not an impossible path. In her short program, she stepped out of her triple flip. That was the only error in the program. She still got really great PCS because she's got gorgeous spins. She's very expressive with her arms. I feel like her footwork sequence really shows off her skating skills very well. So she put herself in a position to make a push for the podium if she could have a good free skate. So Rion does have a quad. It's not a jump that she has landed very successfully in competition very often. She did once last season. Here, it was under-rotated. And to me, it didn't seem like she had a lot of speed going into it either. and she did step out of a triple flip later in the program. So her tech score was 75 at the end of her program, but when the scores came up, it was 68. So she did get some calls, but even with that, she was still almost at 135 points in her free skate, and that allowed her to get over 200 points with 2 less than perfect skates. So if she can land a clean short and clean up a couple of things in her long program, even without the quad attempt, she is a contender for world medals if she can get there. It's a hard road, right, in Japan, because out of 9 Grand Prix medals that have been available at these first 3 Grand Prix, 7 of them have gone to Japanese women. 2 of them have gone to Wakaba, but the others have gone to completely different women. And we still have not seen a couple of other Japanese women. Well, one in particular, and that's Mona Chiba, who is the reigning 4 continents champion and was at Worlds last year. But I loved Rion's program. I loved her costume. She had like a very pretty, colorful dress and like a sparkly headband. It's a really nice skate. Like her skate, Rita Masuki's long program last week, and Yuna Aoki, like some of the Japanese skaters that you may not think of, like you think of the ones with the big jumps, like Rinka and Hana, and of course Kaori. Like to me, like that next like middle pack, they have some of the best programs and some of the best skills that we have going in women's skating right now. So right off the podium was Chaeyeon Kim of South Korea, and she was second after the short program. Really came in here as probably the favorite to win, with Amber being a really big wild card. She certainly showed up and showed out in the short program. Skating to Tron, I think it's a really good style for her. It's a really enjoyable program. Music of Tron is always great. Got herself over 70 points, put herself in a really good position to stay on the podium and potentially make Grand Prix final. And then in the free skate, Chaeyeon's strategy is to really stack the back half of the program, which is not a bad idea if you have the stamina for it. And for somebody like Chaeyeon, I think it really helps her connect to the program earlier than it would be if she had a lot of big jumps right off the bat and she was really zoned into that and kind of left her program behind. However, for her, it really didn't work here. She didn't have any calls in the short program, but she ended up with 5 calls in the long program. So she had 2 jumps that were called on the quarter. She had an unclear edge on her flip. She had an under rotation and a full downgrade. Her technical score really dropped. So she had a 72.88 when she ended her program. And when her scores came out, she had a 63.04. So that was almost a 10-point drop, which was the difference in her potentially winning the competition and ending up in 4th place. I personally, I think the program is fine. I just feel like it's a bit one note for most of it. Like the music kicks up at the end, but I don't feel like there's any real uptick in her performance, and there's just zero emotion. So I was actually really surprised that she was 3rd in components here and that she was significantly ahead of Nina Pinzeroni, who I feel like is superior in a lot of places, when that second mark to Chaeyeon Kim. But clearly the judges felt very differently. I mean, even the Belgian judge actually had Chaeyeon Kim in 1st in both composition and skating skills and had Nina underneath that. Interestingly, I mean, a lot of the judges had her 1st in skating skills and composition. So I don't know. I don't see it. But good for Chaeyeon, because she's getting the marks from the judges, and she's going to need that. If she made it more difficult on herself to make it to Grand Prix final, she's not out of it having a fourth place finish here, but she probably needs to win her next Grand Prix, honestly, in order for that to happen. And I know she's got to be extremely disappointed because she wanted to make Grand Prix final last year, and she got silver in her first Grand Prix, was, I think, second going into the free skate in that next Grand Prix, and just had kind of a little bit of a meltdown. Again, it wasn't like a bad. It wasn't like she fell here and fell there. It was kind of like this. It was like towards that end of the program, not getting those jumps fully rotated. And it can be very, very costly for her. Now, she did have a fall here in the program. Again, on that second half, she's got a triple Lutz, triple toe combo, and she fell on the toe. But it was really the calls that really got her more than anything. In fifth place here was Sarah Everhart of the U.S. She's coming off of a second place finish at Lombardia. So the question was, how is she going to respond to in her first Grand Prix? And frankly, after the short program, I was like, does this girl get rattled at all? Because she looked rock solid. She is skating to music from Riverdance, different from Brady's music in her short program, which is to Lord of the Dance. I feel like the short program is a good fit for her. I think it camouflages a lot of her deficiencies that she has in terms of composition and overall skating skills and presentation. But unfortunately, in the free skate, it's much easier to see those deficiencies. So in the free skate, she skates to Firebird. She's clean here. No issues with the jumps whatsoever, but she definitely needs more expression, both in her face and in her body. And she's got the same coaches that Elia has, and she needs that same PCS improvement that we've seen from Elia. And if she did, she could be in a completely different league. She got just under 130 points, 129.99, and that was with her PCS only 61. Now, nobody in this field was just blowing it away in PCS. The highest that we saw was 68, and that was from Wakaba. So if you look at that and you say, if she could just improve her PCS, her program components by 5 points, and then she's in that 135 point range, that could really propel her a lot. 5 extra points would have gotten her a bronze here. So a lot of times what people do when they're 5 points away, 10 points away, is they try to figure out a way to improve technically, right? Like, where can we add another combination? Where can we move this to the second half of our program instead of the first half of our program? All of these things. And really, you can see in a case like Sarah, what she really needs is just to improve the overall quality of her composition and her presentation. And that could be those extra points that she needs to compete with these other ladies. And she's almost there, even just with the technical side of it. And sixth place here was Nina Pinzeroni of Belgium. This is what Mark said about Nina, that she rotates her jumps in practice, but that she gets tight in competition. And I'm like, how do they know this? Do they have a tech caller at practice? Or are they like videoing and like zooming in and making sure that she's getting those full rotations in practice? I mean, I get it. I believe that you can tighten up enough where it's an issue. But are you sure? Like, are you sure it's not a technique thing? Are you completely sure that it's just nerves that's getting it with her? Because like last year, she didn't really seem to be as nervous. And, you know, she was still getting calls last year also. I don't know. I definitely do not think that Nina gets the PCS that she really deserves, because I feel like she showcases her artistry very well. I think she needs like a full spiral sequence in her program, especially in the free skate. She just, to me, should just have like the full Sasha Cohen package. She's got all the goods. She just needs rotation on her jumps. In her short program, really love the beginning of her program. She steps out of her triple toe and that triple Lutz, triple toe combo, which is actually very uncharacteristic of her. So she found herself in the final group, but several points away from a podium spot, kind of like she was at Skate America. In the free skate, Starts out really good, doesn't rotate her second triple Lutz. She tries to save it, but falls. And then she also steps out of her triple Salchow late as well. But again, just all the compliments in the world for both of her programs. I think Benoit really understands her strengths and really composes her programs just fantastically. In seventh place was Mai Mihara of Japan. And I feel like she just hasn't gotten back technically. And unfortunately for her, she's really getting passed by the other Japanese women in the process. She even says post-event that she's not fully recovered. I guess she's recovered enough to be competing, but she's not recovered enough to be at her technical best. It's unfortunate because she's a lovely skater, but I definitely don't see that she's going to be able to make it back fully this year. And my question is she going to be able to really throw herself into the hat next year for the Olympics either if she comes off of a season that's potentially going to be behind so many other Japanese ladies? That's yet to be seen. I'm not writing her off, but it was just so nice for the season that she had 2 years ago and that first season after the Olympics, and she just hasn't been able to get back to that form. In her short program, she's skating to a piece of music called Grief by Tony Ann. It started out really well with her combo and her double axel, but got to her solo jump and popped it. Did a double flip instead of a triple flip, and double jump gets you no points whatsoever. She was held up some with her PCS, but it was a very, very costly mistake. And then in her free skate, she's skating to the red violin. She had an early mistake there. She just kind of ran out of gas at the end and couldn't really rotate her jumps. I do think it's a good program. Perhaps in a second outing, she could be a little bit better, but I don't know how much improved she's really going to be in 2 weeks when she skates at Finlandia, but we'll see. In 8th place here was Anastasia Gubanova of Georgia. Overall, her step sequences are just killing her. It was the same way last season. It's been the same way this season. She's got to figure out a way to get a level 4 on her step sequence. And every competition, it's like that. The spins were a little bit better at her challenger. I feel like we've regressed a little bit again here, and she loses so many points on some of those elements. She is one who also has issues rotating fully her jumps. In her short program, she's skating to Money, Money, Money by ABBA. She really has fun with it. I just don't think it's a good choice. Like when you're trying to get the judges to really go with you, I don't think this is the program that's going to change their minds. Now, she had some technical issues here. She fell on her triple Lutz, got a Q on her triple toe and on the triple Lutz. Of course, got level 2 on her step sequence. She ended up with the V on her combo spin. She was only 8th in PCS. Not at all where she wants to be. Her long program, I think, is a more successful program for her. But again, a lot of technical issues, very shaky on the first combo. That triple Lutz triple toe. After that, I felt like she settled down a little bit, but then she stepped out of her second triple Lutz. She wasn't able to get a combo off, so she had repetition violation, lowered base value. She did a triple flip double axel, and then she picked in for a double toe, and it just didn't happen. Not really sure why she was trying to tack on a double toe onto that combination anyway. I guess just to get a couple of extra points, but it cost her because not only did she not get the double toe, but she ended up with negative GOE on the jumps that she landed well because she didn't get the double toe off. So not the best competition for Anastasia. She's very inconsistent. Seems like she skates best at European championships, and then everywhere else, it's just kind of a mess. Back to the drawing board for her, and perhaps she'll do better in her next outing. In 9th place was Livia Kaiser of Switzerland. In this competition, the camel spin just really was not her friend. She had a problem on it in both segments of the competition. Cost her some points, and like at Skate America, in her short program, she doubled her combo jump. So triple Lutz, double toe again for her. Really like this song. Like I just finally downloaded it. It's called Me and the Devil. It's just, I don't know. It's just like a really cool vibe. In the long program, again, just hasn't been able to find her best technical form, and she's not really able to create a moment in absence of a clean skate. Like, the best skaters are going to draw you in, like, whether their program is going well or not. And for Livia, when she's on, the program is significantly better, and when she's off, it just falls flat. And then that, coupled with the struggling with the spins, the camel position gave her negative GOE, both in the solo camel spin and in the combination where she did it as well. Not the Grand Prix that she was hoping for, ending up kind of in the bottom of the standings in both of her Grand Prix. I know she's definitely better than what we've seen from her. And hopefully next time we see her out, especially when we get to Europeans, she'll be much stronger technically than what we have seen from her so far this season. In 10th place was Laurent Shield of France, and she was the best placing French lady, but they were all bunched up here at the bottom of the standings. In her short program, she had 2 issues. She put a hand down on her triple toe in her combination, and she popped her axle into a single axle. So she didn't get any credit for that jump at all. I think overall it's a decent program. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. In her free skate, she didn't get her triple toe off in that first element. So she tried to do the triple toe later when she did her second triple lutz, and she just didn't get that triple toe all the way around and ended up with a full downgrade. Also fell on her triple loop later in the program. I find her jumps to just be incredibly distracting because she has this weird tilt in the air when she's doing them. I think that she has some cool moments in this program, but overall she just lacks extension in a lot of her movements with her arms, with her legs, and I think that that would help her go really far if she could either increase her flexibility or if they choreograph the program to better camouflage those types of deficiencies. In 11th place was Leah Serna, and in her short program, she fell on her triple flip. I feel like she just needs a better finish. Like, she didn't get level 4 on any of those last few elements that in her program, the spins or her step sequence. Her last spin, which is a layback, actually got like slower as it went. She just really struggled with the catch foot position. In her free skate, it was a little bit better in the first half. She was pretty strong technically, but she had a couple of mistakes late. To me, it's a bit of a weird program. The audio wasn't great either. I feel like she gets into it during the step sequence, but she's pretty vanilla for most of the program. Like, she was doing some illusions like right before her final combo spin and got off balance and wasn't able to start her combo spin on time. And then once she got into it, she didn't have a lot of spin and she didn't complete enough revolutions in the first position that she was in, and she lost the spin completely. And so she was another person that lost an element. So I know she was disappointed at the end of both of her programs, basically, with the way that they ended. And then in 12th place here was Clemence Mayendu, who was making her Grand Prix debut. In the short program, she was skating in music from Black Panther 2, which is really great music, cool costume to go with it. Started out with a triple toe, and turned out of that second one. And she had a really hard fall on her triple flip. Her skating skills aren't quite there to the rest of the ladies, so she only got a base level on her layback spin. The free skate was really rough. She almost had a completely red wordle, which is the opposite of a green wordle. Every single element in her free skate ended up with negative GOE. I think at the time she had like exactly 0, so she had a gray on her choreo sequence. It kept her from having the full red wordle, but once the judging came down, they decided to give her negative GOE on the choreo sequence too, which frankly I think is a little harsh. I mean, really. She did land the triple flip in the free skate, which was the element that she fell on in the short program. She does not seem to have a double lutz or a triple loop. She didn't attempt either of those jumps in her free skate. She just struggled a lot with her landings. She had 2 falls, and her last jumping pass was actually a planned double flip Euler, double Salchow combination. So she lacks some technical ability as well as overall skating skills, but I'm sure this was a fabulous experience for her, and hopefully she wasn't too disappointed with her skates here. All right, so for the Pam Machinko Award this week, I think I've got to give it to Amber for winning her first Grand Prix. She has come such a long way, and I think a lot of skaters would have just given up mentally, and she's obviously put a lot of work into the mental part of her skating to really allow her to come out and skate as confidently as she did, especially in the short program, but also that she was able to keep it together enough in the free skate to hold on and get a win here. Let's take a look at the current Grand Prix standings to make the final. So Wakaba Higuchi has clinched her spot with 28 points with a win and a second place finish. We've got two skaters with 15 points. That's Amber Glenn and Kaori Sakamoto, who have both won their Grand Prix. Then we've got Rinka Watanabe and Rino Matsuke with 13 points from silver medal finishes in their Grand Prix. And then we've got Rion Sumiyoshi, who's here, and Hana Yoshida, with both having bronze medal or third place finishes, and they have 11 points. I've also put Chaeyoung Kim and Kimi Rapond on here with fourth place finishes because they'll be in the mix, but it's definitely looking like we're going to have potentially as many as 5 Japanese ladies in the Grand Prix final. Now, who knows? Skaters like Rinka Watanabe, even Hana Yoshida, Rino Matsuke are not as consistent as someone like Kaori. So they could not do as well in their second Grand Prix. But that's kind of how we're looking at right now with Chaeyoung Kim and Kimi Rapon sort of being on the outside looking in. Of course, a reminder that Luna Hendricks withdrawn from her first Grand Prix very early and then just recently withdrew from her second one as well. So once she withdrew from the first one, obviously she wasn't going to be in the Grand Prix final. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, Isabeau has also withdrawn. And so while she has 13 points, she will not be in the Grand Prix final. So looking ahead to NHK, these are our competitors for this weekend. We've got Olga Mikutina of Austria, Nina Petrokina from Estonia, Laura Naki Gutman from Italy, Yuna Aoki, Mona Chiba, and Kaori Sakamoto of Japan, Yelim Kim from Korea, as well as Seong Wee. We've got Ekaterina Korokova of Poland, Alyssa Liu, Brady Tennell, and Lindsay Thorngren, all of the U.S. So this certainly looks to be the Japanese ladies and the U.S. ladies being at the top here. I think it will be a tough draw for the other 6 ladies to really get in that final group. I certainly hope that we see Yelim rebound from her Skate Canada performance, but I don't have high expectations, unfortunately, for her. It'll be an interesting head-to-head battle between the 3 American ladies. It's a great opportunity for both Lindsay and Brady to get a win over Alyssa here if they could. Alyssa obviously had a great short program at Skate Canada last weekend. Can she improve upon the free skate? Rotation of her jumps probably hasn't had the chance to really improve a lot in those couple of weeks, but if she could skate a little bit cleaner, that would help her also. But it could certainly be a Japanese sweep between the 3 Japanese ladies that are here. Mona Chiba and Kaori certainly, I think, would be at the top of the podium, with Yuna Aoki being a big wild card. She can absolutely deliver a podium performance, or she could do like she did at Skate America and take herself out with a really bad short program. So if I'm going to make a formal prediction, I'm going to say Kaori for the win. Mona Chiba, who's not exactly the picture of consistency either, but I'm going to throw her in the mix for silver. And I'm going to say Lindsay Thorngren, who got a silver at NHK last year, makes it onto the podium again this year at third, which is probably asking a lot because she's another one that has issues with rotation. But she's got 2 really good programs. She's repeating her short program from last year. And the fact that she did well here last year, I think maybe will give her a little bit of confidence that she needs. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. You can find me at Ice Skate Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. You can also send me a line at thecuttingedgepod@gmail.com. I hope that you enjoyed Grand Prix France this past weekend, even though we had definitely some ups and downs between all four disciplines. Looking forward to big crowds this week at NHK. I thought the crowds at France were pretty good, especially compared to the first two Grand Prix in America and in Canada. But we know that the Japanese crowd, I'm sure, is ready to be loud, and the skaters love competing in Japan because of that energy that they get. And so I'm looking forward to that. Not looking forward to the weird and crazy times that will be. So it may not be tweeting as much this weekend in real time when we have things going on at midnight. But perhaps I'll get some tweets in there a little bit later. And I'll be back next week, obviously, with recaps. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.